Today we're going to explain k-means clustering. Now, k-means clustering is a data mining or computer learning algorithm which can be used to gain further information from a data set. Today we're going to discuss how k-means clustering works, its practical uses, and the factors and issues to be taken into consideration when deciding whether or not to use k-means clustering. What is k-means clustering? K-means clustering is a data analysis tool which can be used to place data points into groups. These groups are known as clusters. The data points within specific groups will all share similar characteristics. In k-means clustering, the k actually means the number of clusters. So here, for example, in this data set, we have 3 clusters. We have a blue cluster, a green cluster, and a red cluster. Now, on its own, the algorithm is not able to figure out what is the correct number of clusters, so this must actually be input by the user. Next, I will discuss how the algorithm works. First, a number of seeds are chosen based on the number that has been input for k. So these seeds are chosen at random. So for example, here in our data set, we have the amount a customer has spent graphed against their income. Here, the number for k is 3, and you see we have 3 seeds. We have a red seed, a green seed, and a blue seed. In the second stage, the algorithm groups the data points into clusters based on how close they are to the seed. So how does the algorithm decide which seed the data point is closest to? The algorithm draws lines between the points. So for example, it draws a line between the red and the green, and then there's a bisector between this line. Now everything above that is part of the red cluster, everything below is part of the green. In addition, the same thing is done between the green and blue data points. A line is drawn and this line is bisected. Now everything on the right is part of the blue cluster and everything on the left is part of the green cluster. In addition, the same process goes through between the red and the blue data points. At the end of that step, our data points are grouped into 3 clusters. We have a red cluster, a green cluster, and a blue cluster. In order to find the optimal cluster, in the next step, the algorithm calculates the midpoint of the cluster. Then the seed that we spoke about in step 1 moves from that initial point to the midpoint of the new cluster. This center point then becomes the seed for the next round. In the final step, the algorithm repeats steps 2 and 3. The data points are first organized into clusters, and then the midpoint of those clusters is calculated. This continues until there is no measurable change in the clusters. So here we see the end of k-means clustering. We have 3 clusters. Here we have our red cluster, our green cluster, and our blue cluster. How can k-means clustering be used in a business environment? One of the main uses of k-means clustering is identifying market segments. Each cluster will contain segments of the population with similar characteristics. Likewise, different clusters will contain segments with different characteristics. This information can then be used to create specific marketing mixes for specific clusters and also help to identify profitable segments of the population to be targeted. Another means of using k-means clustering for business is in grouping brands or products into specific categories. Again, brands or products in similar clusters will have similar characteristics or functionality, while those in different clusters will have dissimilar characteristics or functionality. This can allow the company to identify market opportunities or to target niches which are not being served. Although k-means clustering can be a powerful tool, there are a number of issues with its use which must be remembered when you are using it. Firstly, the number for k must be put in by the user. Now, particularly in large datasets, it may not be immediately obvious what the optimal number for k is. So this may require a number of values to be input for k before any usable data can be obtained. In addition, the algorithm is also sensitive to outliers. An outlier is a data point that is far away from all other data points. So because k-means clustering relies on finding the midpoint of a cluster, outliers have a significant effect on the results obtained. Likewise, the algorithm is also sensitive to noise. Noise is unsorted or useless data. So before k-means clustering is used on a dataset, it needs to be cleaned to ensure that usable data is obtained. In this regard, it is important to know what information you are looking for before using k-means clustering. While it can sort data, unless the correct question is being asked, the information that is obtained may be useless. So at the end of that presentation, we hope we've been able to enlighten you on k-means clustering.